war. A word that brings to mind destruction, suffering, and loss. But behind the scenes, wars aren't just about conflicts between nations. They are big business. A business where corporations, banks, and even governments make billions while ordinary people pay the price. Pause for effect. Music intensifies slightly. But who really profits from wars? And how does the global war machine operate? Let's uncover the hidden forces that turn human suffering into financial gain. 1. The military-industrial complex. A money-making machine. Imagine a system where war itself becomes a product, something to be sold, sustained, and profited from. This is the military-industrial complex, a term first warned about by U.S. President Dwight D. Eisenhower in 1961. It describes the close relationship between governments, defense contractors, and lobbyists. Take the top 5 defense companies in the world: Lockheed Martin, Boeing, Raytheon, Northrop Grumman, and General Dynamics. These companies manufacture everything from fighter jets to missiles and advanced weaponry. And every time a conflict escalates, their stock prices soar. During the Russia-Ukraine conflict, Lockheed Martin's stock jumped by over 30% in just months. The more wars break out, the higher the demand for weapons, and the more profits flow into the hands of arms manufacturers. 2. Governments and defense budgets. But where do these companies get their money? From government defense budgets, funded by taxpayers. The U.S. alone spends over $800 billion a year on defense, more than the next 10 countries combined. But here's the catch. Much of this money doesn't go toward soldier salaries or humanitarian efforts. Instead, it goes directly into contracts for military equipment and private security firms. During the Iraq and Afghanistan wars, companies like Halliburton and Blackwater made billions providing logistical support, fuel, and even private armies. Wars are no longer just fought by nations. They are increasingly outsourced to private corporations. 3. Banks and war financing. But there's another hidden player in the war economy: banks. Wars require money, and governments often borrow heavily to fund military campaigns. Who lends them the money? Major international banks. Take J.P. Morgan Chase, Goldman Sachs, and Citibank. These financial giants have historically funded both sides of conflicts. In World War II, some American banks had financial ties with both the Allies and Axis powers. By issuing war bonds and lending billions, banks ensure they profit from both the build-up to war and the reconstruction afterward. The longer the war drags on, the more interest they collect. 4. The media and war propaganda wars need public support, and that's where the media comes in. News networks often frame conflicts in ways that justify military action, sometimes backed by defense contractors who advertise on their platforms. Before the Iraq War, mainstream media pushed the idea of weapons of mass destruction, WMDs, a claim that was later proven false. But by then, the war had already begun, and defense stocks had skyrocketed. When war is sold as necessary, moral, and even heroic, it ensures continuous public backing and endless profits for those fueling the conflict. 5. The real cost of war. Who pays the price? While corporations, banks, and politicians make billions, the real cost of war is paid by ordinary people: soldiers, civilians, and displaced refugees. Wars destroy economies, displace millions, and leave generations in poverty. After the Iraq and Afghanistan wars, entire regions were left destabilized, but defense contractors walked away with record profits. So, the next time you hear about a conflict, ask yourself, who really benefits? Who funds it? And most importantly, who suffers? War isn't just about ideology or national security, it's a trillion-dollar industry. And as long as war remains profitable, the cycle will continue. But now that you know who profits from wars, the question is, what can we do about it? Share this video, spread awareness, and let's question the real motives behind global conflicts. Because only when we expose the truth can we start to break the cycle.